I remember a day where like, asked me all my girls' names and then like, what's your having baby's name? We want her in this room too. Just like the most thoughtful and loving people who really like remembered that I had just done something really hard with my children, a year and a half ago, less than a year and a half ago. And it was like a really lovely birth, like it really was. Like it felt, how I explained it to people afterward, it was like, it felt so redemptive. It just felt like she was always meant to be in our story and it was always meant to happen this way. And it doesn't fix or heal anything. She doesn't replace anyone. She just has her own like really beautiful, redemptive story. I remember turning to my husband right after we had her and saying like, is this what it's like for everyone? Like, this is incredible. He was like, yeah, probably. And I remember being like, let's have more.
Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week, you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristin Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Before we begin today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk to you, just you. If you are a lost mom in any season of this journey, I want you to know that I created something with you in mind. Whether you are newly grieving, trying to conceive again, not sure of what comes next, pregnant after loss, or parenting a living child while still carrying the babies who aren't here, you are welcome. I have a free community called the Doula Life community, and it's a space where lost moms can gather without having to explain themselves. A place where you don't have to shrink your grief, you don't have to tone down your hope, and you definitely don't have to pretend like you're okay. Inside, you'll find other women who understand this journey. There are message boards, free workshops, shared stories, and gentle resources. But more than anything, there is connection. It's completely free and it's growing, and it was built to feel like a soft place to land. If your heart has been craving that kind of space, you can join us at thedoulalife.ca/community. I'd love to see you inside. Today on The Rainbow Connection, I'm sitting down with Lindsay Hall, a mama to 4 daughters, 3 she gets to hold, and 1 she carries in her heart always. In this episode, she walks us through her journey of infertility, her twin pregnancy, and the loss of her daughter, Rosalind, just after childbirth. We talk about what it was like to bring Josephine home while her heart was breaking, and how postpartum grief doesn't wait for you to catch your breath. We also talk about becoming pregnant again with her daughter, Scarlett, about what pregnancy after loss really feels like when nothing about this road feels simple anymore. I really loved my conversation with Lindsay. Loved it, but obviously at the same time didn't. But I was so appreciative of her perspective and her energy and just the beautiful mother that she really is. Twin pregnancy in itself is a journey, and losing one of your twins is something that so many of us will never relate to. So I'm so grateful that Lindsay gave us a little window into her heart and her story and her beautiful little girl, Rosalind. Okay, well, enough for me. Now let's hear from Lindsay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Rainbow Connection. Today, I am joined with Lindsay. Hi, Lindsay. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Lindsay is going to share a little bit about her journey through motherhood today, the journey of her girls. She's going to be sharing her angel baby story and her rainbow baby story. It's more unique because Lindsay has a twin story to share with us, and we'll get into it and she'll explain a little bit better. But, before we dive into things, Lindsay, why don't you, share with our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Thanks. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay, and I live in Colorado with my husband, Bruce. And then we have 3 Earthside daughters and 1 daughter in heaven. So 4 girl mom to the very core. I work part-time at an education nonprofit. And the rest of the time, I'm just home with my girls, soaking them in and just enjoying all the craziness of motherhood.
Crazy indeed, especially with all girls. I would love to be able to be a fly on the wall some days there. Well, Lindsay, I would love to hear all about your girls. So wherever you feel comfortable, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure. Yeah. So my oldest, who is now 6, and she would want me to say 1.5. I have endometriosis. So it's always kind of like a journey to be pregnant. And so with my oldest, we went through some fertility treatments and had her. She did have a congenital heart defect. So she had a NICU stay and a couple of different things that were impactful. But for the most part, it was like fairly, I don't know, can you say smooth sailing with a congenital heart defect? Yeah, she,
like as good as it could been, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so then we started trying to think about adding to our family and giving her a sibling. And it was another just like journey with fertility. We were on our last round of IUIs, kind of like our doctor was like, you can do one more and then we need to move on to IVF, because we'd done the medicated cycles and all the different things. And we got pregnant on that last IUI. Actually, and it wasn't until the second ultrasound that we found out it was twins. And my husband wasn't even there, which is kind of interesting.
What was that moment like? I've always wondered what the moment is like when you find out that you're supposed to have more than one.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. And I can, I'm sure I'll talk about it later when we talk about what ended up happening, but because there's a lot of guilt attached to it now.
Okay.
But I cried. I was really scared that I was going to have twins. I remember my first thought was like, how will I keep working? Which is like crazy. I think the things that your brain like goes so to. Yeah. That was my initial reaction. And then I think it was also because my husband wasn't there. Then I got home and he was thrilled.
Oh my gosh. That's nice.
That's good for him. Yes. He's actually always wanted twin girls, like randomly. That's like a little desire he always had. So he was like, oh my gosh. So we just started, I immediately like matched his excitement. I'm like, wow, you're right. This is amazing. Why am I freaking out? So everything was going okay. And we were excited. I had some like light bleeding initially in the pregnancy, which they weren't worried about. And then they said like probably a subchorionic hematoma. And I didn't really know about anything at that point, So then about 17 weeks, I had another light bleeding episode, but it felt watery. So I called the doctor and they were like, it's all fine. Come in though. I went in, they said everything was fine. Then at the 20-week appointment, the ultrasound tech was getting pretty quiet and they brought the doctor in. He asked me a lot of questions about if I had felt anything like watery happening. I said yes. And, the doctor came in, Dr. Swank was her name, who is like now, just like a dear person and friend to me. But she said that twin A, that my bag of water had broken with twin A. And they had separate bags of water. So twin B was fine. And she just said that she thought that twin A might just pass in the womb, or she thought that might be what happened. She said that this happening with twins is pretty rare, and that it was a really specific circumstance.
Now, did you have any questions like why wasn't this discovered when I initially like brought it up? Like,
yeah, it's kind of interesting. I did, and even when they went to, so they had to like take me to the hospital right away to like confirm that my water had broken with like a swab. Well, then their test came back, it hadn't. And they're like, so we don't know why she doesn't have any amniotic fluid.
Okay.
And I said, well, I told you that I had this episode where I had watery fluid. And they're like, yeah, but the test just, it didn't.
It's just so funny. It's like, well, what about what I'm saying? I'm telling you.
Yeah. And so I had a lot of doctors actually say that, like, well, that's not what happened, but something happened. And I remember this one doctor, actually a male doctor, I was talking to him. It was a MFM. And I said, they say that my water didn't break, but I feel like it did. And he goes, oh, then it did. You know best. Like, and he meant it. Like I remember that.
So validating.
Yes. And he was the only one. All the female doctors actually were like, must not have happened. But yeah, it was so they found out that she was just sick, and it would be hard for her lungs to develop without this amniotic fluid. And of course, my first reaction, I remember like crying to the doctor and saying like, I didn't want twins. I just felt so guilty that I felt somehow like my like bad vibes had like done something. And I remember before the ultrasound, I had prayed that one of them was a boy. I thought my husband wanted a boy. And I had like, just done this like, this prayer, like, I hope one's a boy. And I remember when they started getting, like, I could tell something was wrong. I remember just laying there thinking like, never mind. I'm so sorry. Never mind. Like, I take it back. It was just, I just felt like I had done something in my like inner life to impact her. So finally they did confirm with like a more intense test that my water was broken. And that's why she didn't have the fluid. And then, the prognosis was they initially thought she might pass in the womb. It was very tricky because of her sister, twin B, who is Josephine, and twin A is Rosalind. And so Rosalind was sick, and it just was like a really weird situation having a healthy baby there too. So there was a lot of conversation about when we might intervene to help the situation. And basically the doctor's saying like, I'm at 20 weeks. At what point do we intervene to help Rosalind? And like, no one's willing to intervene until Josephine would be completely okay gestationally. So from the start, it felt super hard. It felt like we were almost saying like Rosalind's life was like less than valuable. And I get the medical reason, which is they felt like her survival possibilities were low. And so they didn't want, obviously, to endanger Josie. But it felt like from the beginning, like I was like choosing kind of.
So like complex, right? The stakes are really high and the risks and the benefits. It's just probably a lot to navigate, right?
Yes.
Decisions like impossible.
Yes. There were a lot of like decisions to be made about like, when would I want them to intervene? When would at what weeks, how many weeks would we do a C-section and go for it? And, I think, so I ended up actually staying pregnant for a long time. I ended up staying pregnant until 32 weeks, which my doctors were like, it's hard to stay pregnant with your water broken. And I had a lot of, I had several episodes of placental abruption. I remember the first one, it's probably like 23 weeks, I think. It was like right before viability. So it's like 22, 23. I just like woke up in a pool of blood, like all over my sheets, everywhere.
That must have been scary.
It was horrifying. And I ended up driving myself to the hospital. My husband had to stay with our daughter. I don't know why. We were like waiting for someone to come. Anyway, it was just, there were so many, and that happened 2 more times. It's kind of interesting. By like the third one, it almost felt like, okay, I guess this is happening again, it didn't feel like this, I guess, as traumatic, but it always felt like Rosalind was very sick, and it was just like very impactful the whole time. And
was it her placenta that they were having issues with? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was in the hospital, I think it was a total of like 5 weeks over the pregnancy, just like different in and out. Each time I had to stay longer. There's a big hemorrhage risk. I was bleeding a lot. And she stayed alive, through all of this. And they just didn't think she would. And so I had a doctor say to me on one of the times that I came in, I got to be pretty well known at the hospital. And she said, like, when I first met you, I thought neither the babies were going to survive, just because it's really likely that I would go into labors and then what happened. And, but she said, now I'm thinking miracle thoughts. And I think I like held on to that, like that became like, oh, this story is going to turn out differently.
Kind of your mantra, right?
Like I get to be the one that has the miracle. Like it's going to happen for her and for me. I remember even at the end of the pregnancy, she was like practicing her breathing on the ultrasound. And after that day, actually, my husband told like his first person that it was twins. He had been not naming that it was twins out of like fear. So we were feeling like super hopeful, actually. And so then at 32 weeks, I went into labor. I remember I was covering my vegetable garden because it was a May 20th blizzard.
Oh, bizarre.
Colorado for you, mother. So I'm sure the pressure drop caused something. So yeah, I went into labor. I had been in so many times that the doctors were kind of like, when you have a PPROM, preterm premature rupture of membranes, they don't like to check you, like digitally check you because there's infection risk. And so they hadn't been checking me. And I remember Dr. Espen was like, but this time feels different, right? And I said, yes, it feels different. So she trusted me and she said, okay, we're going to check you then. And she checked me and she goes, you're closed. And I was like, oh no, like I had her check me.
Like, what does this mean? Yeah.
Like what on earth? Like, could I not know my body? And then like 40 minutes later, I said, can you just please check me again? Like, I feel I've ended labor. And she checked me again. And she said, okay, you're 5 centimeters.
Oh, wow. So really fast.
Really fast. So at that point, it moved very, very quickly. Just like, how it, like just a rush of people in the room and everyone's going. It was always going to be a C-section because Rosalind was not going to be able to survive like a birth canal.
Like a bad birth. Yeah.
So we already knew that. We had a planned C-section scheduled for 2 weeks later, but it was just immediate, like rushing, right? And just people, and we're going now. We'll be in the operating room in 10 minutes. We have to go now. And I just started like sobbing. I was just so afraid of it. Like what was finally going to happen. Like I was like so afraid of like finding out her fate, I guess, if that makes sense. And I remember Dr. Escobar like took me like by the head and was like, you kept her alive for so long. You did everything you could do. Like, I'm so proud of you. Which, yeah, she was just like such a rock for me that day. I had actually met her at like a previous bleed and prayed that she would be the doctor delivering the twins. And she was on call that day. So then, yeah, into the operating room. Of course, there's like a ton of people there because with twins, there's like 2 NICU teams plus the operating team. So there's like 30 people in the room. And I'm in hysterics, of course. I was just terrified. So they start operating. And I remember they obviously took out Rosalind first. And I remember I could like hear them, the C-section, you can't really tell what's going on super well. I could hear, Dr. Escobar like take her out, but I didn't hear anything. And I remember like screaming, like, why isn't she crying? Why isn't she crying? Someone tell me why she isn't crying. And finally, it felt like an eternity. I don't know how long it was. I heard her say, do you hear that? She's crying. And I heard her little like gurgle kind of. And so they took her over to the wherever her NICU team was. And then they took out Josephine and took her to her NICU team. Josie left the room without seeing me, but I remember they wheeled Rosalind over to me. And I remember Dr. Esquire saying, talk to her, Lindsay. She needs to hear your voice. And she was a very, very, she was a mom. And I think she just really, she got it, you know? So I said, like, yeah, I love you. You fight, you know? And then she left with her team. And my husband left with someone, I'm sure with her team. And I hate that Josie was like by herself, but yeah, she didn't have someone to go with her team. And they took me to a room to clean up. And I think the nurses were like, I don't know what to do. I know none of us knew what to do. They got me like started on a pump, which is crazy to me now. So I was like, okay.
They were probably like, we gotta get her doing something like
right.
Fizzy, like the totally not pump. Yeah.
Which it felt like fine. I was like, yeah, like whatever, let's do something, you know? So they didn't clean me up yet, but I was pumping, just waiting to hear kind of. And then the nurse got a call down and said, like, you need to go down now. So this is probably an hour afterward. I have no idea. They were like wheeling me down on the whatever gurney, whatever it is. And I saw my husband at the end of the hallway, and I can see him talking to a doctor. And I could just like, his face was so like crumpled, if that makes sense. Like he just was like I could just tell he was like in so much pain. And I remember thinking like, oh no, like it must be over, you know? They must not have been able to do anything for her. Yeah. And so then I came in and yeah, they confirmed like we've tried a lot of different things and her lungs are just not, they're just not gonna do it, you know? And so they said, you know, we want you to just be able to hold her while she passes. And we had her baptized, and then they handed her to me. And I remember they said, like, we can keep her hooked up to the respirator, whatever it is, you know, she's intubated, or we can take it out. And they said she'll last longer if we keep it in. And now, you know, it's like this whole loss game is like a bunch of I wishes, right? Just I wish, totally. I wish. There's a million of them, and that's one of them. Like, I wish I had them extubate her so I could like see her face for that time. But I heard last longer, you know.
Yeah, and you obviously would choose to be with your baby longer, of course, right?
Yeah, it's just it's like
I think most mothers would have chosen that in that moment. So
yeah, no matter what you pick, my therapist has said that. She's like, I've never met a lost mom who isn't like, I wish. They always want that other choice.
Time, right? Yeah. And like, you never know too. I always like, you never know what would have happened if you did make that other choice, and if you would have different things that you would have chosen. Do you know what I mean? Like, it always seems like it would have been idyllic. Like if you chose this other one, maybe, or like it would end up being a positive thing, but we have no idea what that would have, if it would have brought other regrets or yeah. All we do is like make the best choice we can with the information we have and the position we have, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and that, you know, that actually reminds me, Kristin, of just like, you know, there's so many, like, yeah, just like I wish and guilt things. When I had been in one of my hospital visits with the twins, they had wanted me to make some decisions about like life-saving care. And I remember in NICU, doctor came in and talked to me about whether I would want a chest tube or not. And I felt like the way that she provided the option was very much like, this would be a last ditch effort, like to do a chest tube. And almost like it might not work. And then she would have this like, you know, kind of painful procedure at the end. And I think I made that decision alone. My husband was at work, and I decided like, okay, let's not do a chest tube if it comes to that. I didn't even know what it was, to be really honest. Like, I think I was making so many decisions and I was so
exhausted, probably, right?
Yeah. I just like, I don't know what my brain was doing at that point. Like, everything was just so traumatic. And I said like, okay, no, let's not, I don't want to do that. I don't want her to be in pain at the end. Well, then of course, later in the later years, like all I can think sometimes is like, why didn't I just do that? You know, like what if it had worked? Like what if? And, you know, our NICU nurse ended up becoming like our nanny, like really close with her. We kept in touch with a lot of folks, and everyone that was in the room was like, I would have made the same decision. But I always like tell myself, look, what are they going to say to a grieving mom? Like, oh, you messed up, right? Like,
totally.
Yeah. So I think that's
like, why would you have chosen that? Like, no one's ever going to say that, right? And
totally.
You're not alone in those thoughts. Like, yeah, that's all I can say is like, every single mom is like, what if I did this different? What if I did that? Like, you're not alone in those thoughts, and they're so impossible to carry. Like, yeah.
I think I always pictured myself, if like push comes to shove, as a mother, being this type of mother that you picture of like, do everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like to the ends of the earth. And I think there was a part of me that felt like I wasn't that now because I had made that decision, you know? Yeah. So
I definitely don't see it that way. You really did go to the ends of the earth. And I don't think any mother would choose for their baby to experience more pain, right? I think you made the best choices that you could have made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, those are the things that we have to tell ourselves, like, in order to be healthy and whole and like survive it. And then there's always that like intrusive thought of like, could you have been a better mom? Why weren't you a better mom? You know, she needed you. I'm sure a lot of moms relate to this as well. Like, I always have a feeling like all she had was me. She couldn't advocate for herself. She had me to do that. And so, yeah, it's weighty to be that one that's like, to be that one for someone. So yeah, I held her, I got to hold her for almost 2 hours. And my husband held her too. It's funny, like in those moments, like who knows why what comes to mind, but I ended up singing Baby Beluga to her. I don't know if you know that song. Is like,
of course I know that.
Okay. Which is so funny. I'm like, and it's become like such an important song to our family because of it.
Sure.
All my girls love it and we sing it together, but I don't know why that popped into my head, but I sang Baby Beluga to her. And the song that I sing to all my girls at bedtime, which is You Are My Sunshine. I sing that to her and just, I don't know, just tried to love on her as much as I could. Of course, I lived with all the regrets of like, why did my blank and blank and blank, but I also, my husband is so sweet and he'll be like, you sang to her. I saw you love her so well, you know?
Well, you loved her the whole time too, right? That's all she ever knew was like your love and all the like you were her mother that whole time.
Yeah. And I really could feel her. Like she knew me, you know? I could like feel that sense from her, like really deeply. Yeah. And she actually, my husband held her and then they brought her back to me and she actually waited to pass until I was holding her again. She died like 3 minutes after that. And I feel like she was like kind of waiting for me a little bit. Not that she doesn't love my husband, but
it's different with mom.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. And then I just got time with her afterward. I didn't think to take enough pictures, but we took some and, yeah. And then this whole time there was Josephine, in the NICU on a CPAP, you know, who I hadn't even met. And so, yeah, I went back to the room and got cleaned up and then went back to their NICU room, met Josie, and then did a lot of some just like memory making with Rosalind and gave her a bath and like, you know, her handprints and footprints and things like that. I felt quite disconnected from Josie at that point. I think, she's a very resilient child today. So I think that, you know, it's like, she didn't even like meet her parents for so long. I felt quite disconnected from her. I really, it's hard when you have your baby that is dead laying there and then your baby that is alive. Like, I mean, they're literally next to each other.
Oh, Lindsay, I can only imagine how your heart must have been feeling. And like, it honestly is such an impossible situation to be able to like feel all of that at once and like be that mom for both babies at once. Like it truly is like a remarkable thing. Yeah.
It was, by far just the most like dichotomous emotions I've ever, you know, like far and away, just how to have joy for one child's life and then just feel so like broken over another. I kept Rosalind in the cold cot in the room for another day. Just to, I remember when I left, I was like, "You're going to keep them next to each other, right?" And they were like, "Yes, yes, we are." And so then got to just like say another final goodbye to Rosalind the next day, and then moved right into a baby in the NICU. You know, like right into that world, which was crazy. I remember after I got released from the hospital, I was up at 3 a.m. pumping. And I remember just like, I'm looking over at my husband who's asleep, like bless his heart. And I remember just like crying and thinking like, how is it possible I had 2 babies and no one's here? You know, like what
is this life? Yeah.
Like what? I mean, I think in a lot of ways, I didn't really like deal with a lot of Rosalind's life and death until later because the NICU is super all encompassing. Like I was there constantly and it was its own trauma, to be really honest.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Which,
and for some people, that's like their big trauma, right? Like for some moms, like being in the NICU is their trauma. And you had that on top of, you know, losing your baby and having a baby at home at this point too.
Yeah. And that was hard too. Like I felt like I never saw Ruby. It was just like it was like honestly such a crazy time. It was just, that sounds so ridiculous to say like it was crazy, but it was, I mean, I don't know another word of like how I remember like at one point we're trying to plan Rosalind's funeral, which I put off for like a couple weeks because she's like super overwhelmed with the NICU stuff too. And honestly, I just think I didn't want to think about it. And I remember I'm in the NICU with Josie, like taking care of her and helping with her. Like, and I'm calling a flower shop to get a floral arrangement for Rosalind's casket. And just like that, like, you know, like I'm taking care of my baby in the NICU. I'm like calling to get a floral arrangement for my dead baby, you know, like, it's actually the woman on the phone. I remember I was talking to her, you know, I said, you know, it's her name, you know, the name of the person, but the one it's sent to, it was Rosalind and, you know, her last name. And then she said, okay, well, like what size of floral? I said, well, it's for an infant casket. And she kind of kept going through the order. And then she said, and what's your name? And I said, my name. And I remember she stopped and she said, is Rosalind your baby, Lindsay? And I was like, yeah, she is. And she just stopped right there and like prayed for me, right on the phone. And she said like, we're going to make this most beautiful, arrangement, you know, for her and for Rosalind. It was like, you know, and it's like, and then like 2 seconds later, the NICU team comes in and like, how's her?
You like have to switch hats. You're like, okay.
Like, okay,
grieving mom hat and then NICU mom hat.
I think we'll have to redo her IV in her head. Is that okay? I'm like, oh, Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it was wild. And now we had a lot of support and help from loved ones, and we got through it with, with people just loving on us and strangers loving on us,
Sometimes those strangers just like totally come out of the woodworks, and those moments, like, you don't forget them, right? It could be like the simplest thing, and it can like change someone's life, like that act of kindness, right? And like being able to see someone and like step in their pain with them. And I've never thought about funeral homes so much before, or like people that do flowers or that like are involved in these things. I've never had to. But then you like meet these people and you're like, oh, this is why you do what you do. And you're so good at it because you just totally held that space. Like, I'm so glad that you had that woman. Like, small moments like that make such a huge difference, right? They're not small moments. They seem small, but they're not.
Yeah. They're not. And it's like, honestly, like those little moments, that's how we celebrate Rosalind's birthday, is we like do an act of kindness, and we asked our family to do it. Like kind of because of that, because people, those like little things, like kind of like were this like lifeboat for us, like, so I think that, and I honestly, like, a story I tell myself that I truly believe is true is like, they thought that the twins were going to be born so much earlier. And I truly believe that Rosalind held on so long to save Josie. Like, I really believe that in my heart of hearts, that she just kept holding on. They thought she would, weeks and weeks and weeks before it. She held on so long. And I really think it was like, she knew, like her spirit knew that she had to get Josie to be healthy, and to get that far. And so I feel like
she wanted to meet her mom, her parents, right?
I'd never thought about it that way. Yeah. But that too. Yeah.
While we take a quick break, I'd love to tell you all about Mother Like No Other, my community for mothers who are navigating life after pregnancy or infant loss. Whether you're actively trying to conceive, navigating next steps, unsure what to do next, or wondering who the heck you even are anymore, this space was created for you. Because life after loss isn't linear, and deciding what comes next isn't so simple, and figuring out who you are in the aftermath can feel incredibly isolating. Inside Mother Like No Other, we gather for 2 live community calls each month where we talk about the real stuff, navigating decisions, rebuilding trust in our bodies, managing fear and waiting, next steps. There's also an ongoing private community chat where you can show up in real time and growing resource library created specifically for this season. This is not surface level encouragement. It's honest, trauma-informed support from women who truly get it, and a doula who has walked this path too. And the best part, it's only $22 a month. No long-term commitment, just support when you need it most. If that sounds like something your heart has been craving, if you have been looking for your village, you can learn more at thedoulalife.ca/mother. I'd love to see you inside.
So Lindsay, what did life kind of look like?
I never say after, because it really is like a before and like an after. And like, how did it look after for you guys? Like, what was life like? And I would love a window into that.
Yeah. Josie was in the NICU about a month. And
okay.
So we did that whole thing. She actually got out like pretty early. Like she was a trooper for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We had a really sweet, for all of it's hard, we had some like great relationships come from that experience. And I think I said earlier, like our NICU nurse ended up like nannying for us, and just like, we just formed we were kind of a unique NICU situation. And so people like remembered being in the room when, Rosalind had died in the room over. And so actually, my sister-in-law had a stillbirth last summer. Her name is Genevieve. And she was actually born at 32 weeks. It was like just,
oh my goodness,
wild. But I remember she texted me afterward and he said, like, did you ever go back to the hospital, like where Rosalind was born? I have to do that tomorrow. Did you ever do that? And I, yeah, like every day for like a month, which of course I was like, oh yeah, let's walk through what that feels like,
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, she's in her own like grieving space. And
yeah.
But I remember thinking like, oh yeah, that's crazy. So, she did get released about a month later. And then we came home to Ruby and just like tried to heal and, had a lot of like support and love from our friends and a lot of people that didn't get it. It's always that way. A lot of like, at least you have one baby.
I was just going to say, like, what was that like with a twin? Because I can only imagine people just, I could just imagine the people, at least you have one baby. Look at like how much you have. You should be so grateful.
You're imagining correct.
Yeah.
I remember we'd have like, God needed another angel and at least you should be grateful for the ones you have. Like love the ones you have. I was like, or like,
this is a full-fledged human that I've lost. Like, I get angry just envisioning the things that people probably said too, because I've supported clients that, who have lost a twin. Right. And it really is just wild. The things that come out of people's mouths. Like, yeah, I'm just so sorry that you had to deal with that because it really is an extra level of hurt and grief, right?
Yeah. And like it's, how many times I wanted to say to someone, if they had like two kids, well, what if one of them died? Would anyone say to you, like, at least you have one? Never. Those are like worth less because she was young. Like,
yeah. Or like, because I got two at once. Like, what if, it's just bizarre.
She's a person. She's a soul. She, and we had a lot of people that really got it. And then, and then this like sense of like, why aren't you over it yet? You have a baby. And I could feel that imposter syndrome a little bit too, when I would like look at loss accounts and they'd be like, oh, my milk came in and I didn't have a baby to feed and that was so traumatic. And I remember sometimes being like, is this less traumatic for me? Like, does it matter less? Like I almost sometimes would start to like believe those lies that her life was like less important. And then I would just have to like kind of shut it down of like, no, her life matters very much. And she deserves to be remembered for like all that it could have held and all that it did hold. And
I mean, you still did have milk that was meant for her, right?
Yeah, I actually donated like 3,000 ounces because I had a huge oversupply, just I think hormonally. Life was just like, I don't know, trying to feed a newly released NICU baby that, and doing all that. She came home on oxygen and just kind of dealing with all that. But otherwise she was good. And she's a very healthy, very spicy, 3-year-old today. And then I think just like trying to do some healing that felt very slow, and I think I can look back, it's been 3 years now and say like, I've done a lot of healing. I think that first year felt very, very slow, of like, is it like this for everyone that it's taking so long to feel like any version of myself again?
Mm-hmm. Well, because you're still postpartum, right? And like postpartum in itself, a regular postpartum is transformative. And women are walking around lost, trying to find this new identity. And like when you add grief onto it and the loss of your child, it's just like a completely different ballgame, right? And I think too, the first year, like every mother postpartum has these milestones, but like a milestone in your first year with grief is so different because you kind of have both, right? It's like you have to go through all these first. And like the second you start feeling better, there's another first around the corner. Like it's like your first Halloween, your first, pregnancy infant loss remembrance day, your first, it's just like something all the time. And then you also have the added element of like the memories from the year before. So like this time last year, I was with Rosalind and we were doing this and like, it's just kind of constant. It really is like every single day, like whack at something,
I think that's so true. And all the like holidays you didn't realize were going to be totally impactful. Like what happened, like Halloween.
Yeah. Or like Easter, you're like, it's just Easter, but you're like, but it's Easter without my baby. Like, yeah, it's just different, right?
I think it's like, and with the twin thing, it's like this weird, I can, even to this day, and I'm sure forever, I cannot look at Josie without thinking like, I wonder what her and Rosalind would be doing right now. You know,
Totally.
like, I wonder, like,
even more so because they're the same age, right? Like she would be the exact same age, doing things, probably very similar things. Like it would be impossible not to go there.
How alike would they look right now? And what, would Rosalind be just as spicy as Josie? And like, what would, my husband's always like, yeah, 100%. She was such a fighter, you know? So yeah, it's just, that you said it, I think really early in the conversation. I remember talking to my therapist and saying like, I sometimes don't recognize myself, from before, like the things I cared about, the things I thought about, like, I don't, like, who was that person? I truly feel like a different person. And yeah, she was like, you are like, you have been like foundationally changed, you know, like biologically and emotionally, like you are a completely different person. And so it's like, who am I now in light of this? And how do I mother Rosalind well? Well, we're apart right now, you know? What does that look like to still be her mom and mother her? And I don't have it figured out. We're working on it. But yeah.
Now, if we're going to journey a little bit further ahead, obviously, we haven't spoken about this yet, but you did welcome another little girl.
Yes.
How, like, I find that sometimes with most of the mothers I have conversations with, we feel like two different ways after, we lose our baby. And it's like, either I need to get pregnant right away, or I can't even think about getting pregnant. What was it like for you, to journey into another pregnancy?
Yeah, it was the second one. I can't even think about, I would never want to do this again. This is so painful. I actually, you post, Kristin, on your Instagram about like, how do people get the courage to try again after a loss? And every time I see that, I think, I don't know how these women could possibly, like, this is incredible that they would have this resolve. Because I've never experienced that, of like having to make the decision. And I just like, I think it's so brave and like so amazing and beautiful, because I know how much I was like, I cannot, which is, and then God's like, here you go. Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, endometriosis, I had never gotten pregnant without help, basically. And so we weren't even thinking about it. Truly, it didn't even cross my mind. It's not like I'm one of those people that's like, I think breastfeeding is birth control. I know it's not. And it just didn't even cross my mind I could get pregnant, I guess. I had not gotten a cycle back. I think I was planning to maybe get on birth control once I had got a cycle back, but I didn't. And then
you were in another world too, right? Like, you have to give yourself credit for that too. Like,
no, it's so funny.
No one's thinking about these things.
Totally. I'm like, oh, like, how do people get pregnant accidentally? Well, so I just started feeling pregnant. Like, that's it. I just felt like I feel pregnant right now. And I remember I texted my husband and said, pick up a pregnancy test on the way home. And he just sent back LOL. Like he thought it was like some weird joke I was doing. So he didn't even bring it home. And so then I went back one the next day. I remember, and
you're like, no, I was serious. Like, so how far along was this after, you gave birth to the girls?
8 months.
Okay.
After I had the twins, I feel pregnant. And I took a pregnancy test. It was like very clear that I was pregnant. And he's, and again, and it's like kind of crazy, the foreshadowing, or not foreshadowing, but like just the connection. Like when I found out it was twins, I was like, oh no, like, what do I do? I think maybe I just need to work on my anxiety with initial announcements. But I remember, I found out I was pregnant and I thought like, oh, I can't do this again. Like, how am I going to do this again? Like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not healed. I'm not whole. I'm going to mess something up trying to do this again. So I called the doctor and to say like, I need to, I'm pregnant. I need to come in. And I knew I would be high risk again. And so just getting that call. And I remember the nurse on the phone was like, talking to me about when my last period was, I don't know, 20 months ago, whatever. And she was like, is that a baby I hear in the background? I was like, yes, that's my 8 months old. Which is, like, I had desperately prayed for years for my other pregnancies. And then this, I felt like I think this is probably a really common feeling. I didn't feel attached to Scarlett during the pregnancy. I think I was doing a lot of, so my sister-in-law who had I'm going to have to text her and be like, I'm sorry, I talked about you on a podcast. Hi, my sister-in-law who had Genevieve, stillbirth last summer, she wanted to get pregnant again right away. As we were talking about, and kind of go one way or the other. And she named her right away, found out the gender right away. She wanted to feel this strong connection right away to like hold on to. And I felt like I was completely the opposite. We didn't find out the gender, no names. It's like almost like I felt like I couldn't. Like I didn't have, what's the right? I don't even know the right word.
Like the threshold.
Yeah, maybe.
I think of it as like threshold or like space, because you do have an infant at home too, right? Like you have an 8-month-old at home. Like most women are in the thick of it, right? And that's just with the 8-month-old. That's not with this added element of grief and being pregnant again. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. Mm-hmm. And we all choose to do it differently. We all show up and do this differently. Like some people want to know everything and be a part of everything. And some just kind of need to disassociate for like survival, right?
Yeah. And I think that like the survival piece, like I felt like it was like this, like I'm going to survive, still grieving Rosalind, Josie, like, sorry, Scarlett, like it's just, so I did a lot of work with my therapist when I was pregnant of like, okay, childbirth, it's coming pretty quickly after this traumatic experience. How do I walk through this well and like do it in a healthy way? She was super helpful to me. I decided early on I really wanted a vaginal birth just because the C-section had been really horribly traumatic in a way that I think everybody did the best they could in the room, but it was very, very hard. And I didn't want to I just didn't even want to think about it again. So we're going to try for a VBAC. They call it like a toe lap before you do it, and then it's a VBAC. But
toe lap means trial of labor after cesarean, just for people who don't know what that means. But
thank you.
Yeah, and VBAC is vaginal birth after cesarean.
Yeah, I know all these acronyms that get used
so many
around. So her pregnancy was like pretty unremarkable. Everything was fine. I was monitored a ton just to make sure that my water didn't break again early. Everything was all good. And it was, so I went into labor with her. I had an induction scheduled a little bit early, at 39 weeks, I think, that I ended up canceling because I just, I don't know why. I had a sense that I should cancel it. I went into labor that night.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a big person.
Spontaneous labor.
Yeah, I did.
Well, that's why that would be the preferred method for a VBAC. It increases your likelihood of a successful VBAC a lot more going into spontaneous labor. So,
yeah. So, so another just like, I don't know. I feel like there's always these like little things, with like me praying for the doctor for the twins and her being on call. Like, I just felt like me going into labor that night was like a very like God being like, here you go. Like, And so I labored at home for far too long because I was scared to go to the hospital. And if anyone birth after loss has felt that I didn't think I would feel that. And then my husband's like, we should go to the hospital. No, do it here for a while longer. By the time we came to the hospital, I was like 8 centimeters. And they were like, it's too late for an epidural, which with a told Acne back, you want to do an epidural just in case things don't work out well, so you can go to a C-section right away. So I was like, oh, back that up, but ended up just having her like an hour later. And the doctor and nurse team were so sweet. I remember they were like, asked me all my girls' names and then like, what's your having baby's name? We want her in this room too. Just like the most thoughtful and loving people who really like remembered that I had just done something really hard with my children, a year and a half ago, less than a year and a half ago. And it was like a really lovely birth, like it really was. Like it felt, how I explained it to people afterwards, it was like, it felt so redemptive. Like it just felt like, it felt like she was always meant to be in our story and it was always meant to happen this way. And it doesn't fix or heal anything. Like he doesn't replace anyone. She just has her own like really beautiful redemptive story. I remember turning to my husband right after we had her and saying like, is this what it's like for everyone? Like, this is incredible. He was like, yeah, I mean, probably. And I remember being like, let's have more. He goes, let's get you stitched up first. Yeah. Like,
do you remember what the last 9 months were like? Sometimes it does go, I see this a lot, especially in unmedicated, like vaginal births. It's like, you just get this huge rush of oxytocin, the biggest one of your life. And you're just like, I could do that 100 times. Like that was amazing. And it's just, it's not uncommon for sure. But
the hormones were like speaking.
They were hormoning.
Yeah, they were working for sure. But it was lovely. And I didn't have any, like, it didn't feel like particularly hard or painful. The only moment I had that was hard is, for some reason, it's so funny how your brain works. I had a blood clot that they had to take me down for an ultrasound afterward the next day. And so they had to policy, they had to take me on like the gurney. And for some reason, like being on a gurney, being wheeled down the hospital, like took me back to being wheeled down to Bruce and seeing his face. I had this like crazy freak out moment. I was like, you need to stop, I'm like crying. But other than that, like, it's so funny how your brain brings up like the whole childbirth didn't trigger that. But, so crazy. Our postpartum nurse, this is a big Denver hospital, like lots and lots of folks work there. Our postpartum nurse that first night was the same one we had with the twins, which is crazy. Like she was so amazing after the twins. And like, I remember just like crying with us and like helping to like clean me up and like sing Rosalind's name with me. And then to have her be our postpartum nurse that first night with Scarlett was like the most beautiful gift. She like walked in and she was like a Russian accent, which I'm not going to impersonate, but I remember she's like, you guys, like we were like, hi, like,
oh no. Yeah, it's so like such a healing experience for everyone, right? Because I'm sure I'm positive that you have made an impact on her life and Rosalind has before. And like, if it is kind of like this full circle moment. And I love hearing those stories where people kind of find each other again in the hospital. And yeah, it's so sweet.
Hey. Yeah. So Katya, you're the best.
Oh, maybe she'll listen to this one day. Who knows, right?
Yeah, me.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. It sounds like a whirlwind for sure. I'm wondering, like, how do you and your family now, you have your 3 girls at home and you have Rosalind as well. And how does you and your girls, how do they keep Rosalind like a part of your family or honor her or keep her like memory alive?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I like love that question. My girls are really, really good about it. Like they're really good sisters to her. Even from the start, Ruby, my oldest, like I think she really she was 3.5 when the twins were born. And I really felt like she understood from the start what had happened. I remember hearing her talking to her cousins at the lake that summer after the twins were born. And they're talking about Josie. And she said, and no one had ever said it like this to her, but she said, we have Josie and Rosalind didn't get to stay. But we're so happy that Josie got to stay. And no one had ever said like got to say to her. She like came up with it in her beautiful little 3-year-old brain.
Yeah.
And so I think that my girls have, Scarlett's only not even 2, so she doesn't know anything yet. But my other girls, we pray for her like she's just a member of the family in the same way we pray for the rest of everybody. And we do an act of kindness for her on her birthday. And then beyond that, like my girls are so sweet. Ruby will carve a pumpkin for her on Halloween and set it out. We see her a lot in butterflies. And so I'll say, oh, Rosalind's coming to hang out with us. She's coming to play if one goes by. We actually, some of their little cousins say her name Rosalind. They can't say Rosalind, which I actually love because it's like she gets a nickname,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So
It's like those little quirky things that like you don't want to miss out on, right?
Yeah. Really, like it makes me feel like, oh, she's really she's a part of this with everyone, and they'll like come back. We saw an Rosalind butterfly, and yeah, they're really sweet about it. And we, like even it's small things like on our Christmas card, we include her name. Like we just really, I never want to feel like she's not a part of our family. And she always does, it always does feel like she is a part of the family, the girls. Well, sometimes, if they do drawing, sometimes they'll include her in it. And we just really want the culture of our family to like include her story and who she is. And, I'm trying to remember, it's like, there's a children's book about loss. It's like a voyage of something. And it had go take a picture of it in the kids' bookshelf and send it to you. But, it talks about like this voyage that, this girl kind of goes on. It's into heaven, right? And then her siblings are still there on earth. But as she gets into heaven, this little girl, because she's died, her siblings and her parents are right behind her. And she's like, well, I thought that they couldn't come. And the powerful being of this like heaven land is like, oh, but that's not how time works here. You guys are always together here, like you're not. And so I think that's how we've always phrased it to the girls of like, yeah, she's in heaven, but like she doesn't know a heaven without you. You know what I mean? Like you're there with her too. Which I think they like to think about too, like playing with her and just hanging out together.
I love that. You'll have to let me know what that book is, and maybe I'll include it in the show notes just because I know that we're always looking for those little like supportive, especially books. I find that when you have other children at home, it could be really helpful, right? Like we really love The Invisible String in our house.
Yeah.
But we're always looking for more books to be like, how are we going to explain this as like our daughter gets older and that she has a big sister and big brother, and it just helps put things into perspective,
Yeah, it really does. And it's really, authors and people, like they have such a gift with words and with ideas that I can say like, oh, that's exactly how I feel. I couldn't have put it into words, but like that, that's really beautiful. So yeah, I'll go take a picture after this.
I love that. Yes, you'll have to let me know. Well, Lindsay, I just want to, thank you. There's one thing that you said that has kind of stuck with me, and you're like talking about how like to be this mother for Rosalind still, like how you can show up and do that. And I just think that's so beautiful. And I think you do such an amazing job at it, and you're doing an amazing job at it right now. And honestly, I'm just so in awe of you and everything that you've journeyed through. And the mom, you're gonna make me cry. This never happens. But you really are such a beautiful mom.
Thank you.
And you've honored your girls so well, all of them. Like when you talk about your girls, I was just thinking like, oh, they all have like their own little unique story with Rosalind. Like Ruby was here first and she saw it from, being that 3-year-old. And then Josie, obviously has a huge attachment to Rosalind being her twin. And now Scarlett was sent by Rosalind. Like they all have their own little unique journey. And I'm just envisioning the three girls like growing up and knowing that and like watching you and how you honor her. And like, that's going to shape those little girls so much into like these women who know their sister and they're going to become beautiful humans just by like watching their mom, right?
I really hope so. And I so appreciate you saying that. I think it makes me think of like my aunt had a baby boy, Daniel, who died about 3 hours after he was born, you know, way before I was born. And I don't remember like thinking about him that much growing up, you know, like I knew Daniel was there, but I think for my aunt, it was like, you just couldn't talk about it in the same way.
Such a different generation, right? Yeah.
I feel really lucky.
Your family has been through it too. Like just hearing about your sister-in-law and your aunt, it's just like, wow, it's really incredible. And the three of you moms now too have like this, you're all part of the club, right? The club that no one wants to be in, but a deeper level of understanding and empathy and for each other, you know, you kind of get it. And
yeah. You led the exact segment, an exact replica of a segment of my imagination.
What do you mean?
It's a book.
Okay. Oh, that's the title.
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
I was like, wait, what are you telling me?
You're like, what is it? It is a book. I could send you that too. It's like an incredible book about a mom journeying after her child is stillborn. But she says in the book, something along the lines, I'm going to butcher the quote, but after one baby dies, other like dead babies become visible to us. And we are the mom, we know to honor them, you know, like, and I think it's so true. Like after we walk through something like this and after your baby dies, like this whole world is like kind of like visible to you now of all this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I wouldn't have seen, like it wouldn't have even existed to me before that. And of course I would choose it a million times over to have Rosalind here, but I am grateful that I can see that now, you know, and I can honor those stories. And of course you're like a great example of that. And that like your life's work is honoring those stories and seeing those things because of Anna, you know? Anyway.
It's funny. I had, like, can I say world-renowned psychotherapist come on the podcast yesterday who's like an expert with women and women's issues. And even she said, like, I had been treating women for, I don't even know how long it had been, sitting across from me, telling me about their loss. And I'm sitting there telling them like how to deal with it and like how to process and like being that word for them. And then she went through her own traumatic loss and she was like, whoa, like I didn't know what I was talking about. It really just does open this new lens, puts this new lens on the world and opens up this like new level of understanding. And it's so true. You just can't really, you could be the smartest person in the world and know everything it is about psychotherapy and helping people. But until you've experienced it, it really is just like, you can't really grasp it, right? In its entirety. Yeah.
I totally see your experience. Like there's no comparison, you know?
Well, I think that's a beautiful place to end it, Lindsay. And I'm just so thankful for having you here and sharing your girls with us. I know like we chatted a little bit before we started, like, oh, my story, like, is it going to reach anyone? And I know like there is a, you know, I don't even know what to call it, but there are so many mothers that are listening to this right now and we're all nodding our heads and we're all on like a collective ache with you. So I just want to like, thank you so much for allowing us to witness you and also giving us, you know, a mirror into what our experience is like and giving us some validation of the things that we're feeling. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this episode touched your heart, it would mean the world to me if you took a moment to rate and review The Rainbow Connection. Your words help this podcast reach other mothers who need to hear these stories, the ones still searching for hope, for comfort, and for connection after loss. Every review, every star, every kind word truly makes a difference. Thank you for helping me keep these stories alive. I'll see you in the next episode.